Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Eva and I am a millennial who is absolutely obsessed with makeup. Today we have a highly anticipated video, or at least one that I personally have been anticipating, and that is a review and swatch party of all 6 shades of the new Rèphr Beauty Soft Pinch Luminous Powder Blush. Again, a mouthful. Like, why can't these product names just be like the powder blush? Anyways, so these came out, I think on Wednesday or Thursday. I think they came out earlier than anticipated because there was a leak going around on Instagram. So I think they rushed this out a little bit potentially. But anyways, I am super excited. There was like a hint that these were coming out a couple of months ago, and I have been highly anticipating their release. And so these are the Rèphr Beauty Luminous Powder Blushes. So the concept, or rather what the advertising is like if you were to take the Rèphr Beauty liquid blush and the Rèphr Beauty liquid highlighter, mix them together and turn them into a powder, this is what you would get. Now, the way today's video is going to go is I'm going to wear all 6 shades. We are going to do cheek swatches because everyone or all of you tell me in the comments that you find cheek swatches super helpful. So we will do cheek swatches. And then I'm going to also include comparisons. I have a lot of glowy blushes in my collection, so we'll do a few swatch comparisons. That way, if you already own like the Bare Minerals Luminous blushes or the RMS Beauty Luminous blushes, and there are some shades that are similar, I can hopefully save you a little bit of money. But before we get into this launch, would love if you are not already to please subscribe. It does really help out my channel. And then also, if you are not already following me on Instagram, that really helps me out. So I would love if you consider following me over there. And I do post other short form content and reviews that I just don't unfortunately have time to post over here on YouTube. So definitely give me a follow. Now let's talk about the launch. So these retail for $26, and the claims on the Sephora site are that they are a lightweight, glowy blush with buildable, seamless, and silky color to keep you beaming all day. Now, I did wear one of these last night. I'm not going to share my opinion quite yet, but I did want to let you know that I wore it for around 6 hours, and it lasted that entire time. So, did want to let you know that longevity was definitely there for the blushes. Okay, now let's go over each of the shades before we start applying them to the face. The first shade we have here is Joy, and Joy is described as a muted peach. I'm gonna go ahead and do just some finger swatches right now as we're looking at them to give you kind of a sneak peek of the colors. So this is Joy. Next color we're gonna look at is the color Hope. And Hope is described as a nude mauve. And this is Hope. I would say it's like, I don't know, it's described as a nude, but it's definitely a pinky nude. Next, we have the shade Cheer, and this is the shade that I wore last night. And Cheer is allegedly Selena's custom shade. I don't quite know what that means, considering this is her brand. Aren't they all her custom shades? I don't know. But anyways, and Cheer is described as a light, warm pink. I'll definitely be interested to see how this compares to the one we just swatched. So here is Cheer. Next, we have Truth. This is one that I'm very, very excited about. I love a maroon, purpley, mauvey blush, and I'm always curious to see which ones I can actually pull off with my fair skin tone. So this one is Truth, and the description is a mauve maroon. I also want to mention just how smooth these are. Like, if I were in Sephora and I touched these, I would think they were like display and not real, if that makes sense. Because like when you're touching them, it almost doesn't feel like you're even picking up product. That's how smooth it is. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that's what makes sense to me in my head. Next, we have the shade Happy, and Happy is described as a cool pink. And last, but certainly not least, this is the shade Love. And Love is described as a terracotta. Let's swatch this one on the fingers. So here is Love. And I will go ahead and insert arm swatches here so you can see what they look like on my arm. For application, I found, in my opinion, what I think is the perfect blush brush for this particular product, and that is the Rèphr 04 brush. I used this last night to apply it. I did clean it off, but it's, you know, a little stained. And for me, this brush was just perfect for application because it's not super dense, and I find when it is like a baked glowy blush, can be really easy to over apply, and that's what really emphasizes texture on the face, which I know is a concern whenever applying a glowy blush. But this particular brush, or you know, a brush like this where it's not super dense, is going to be a good one for this product. Let's go ahead and get started by throwing these on my face. I want to start with two shades that were described as being somewhat similar, and that would be the shade Cheer and the shade Hope. So these are the two blushes. This one is Hope here, and this one is Cheer. So let's go in and start applying. There's not a ton of kickback. And for application, I find that for a glowy blush like this, you want to just pat it on. For some blushes, I like really like kind of buff it in. But for a glowy blush, I like to just tap it on. This one is quite glowy. We're going to tap it on, and then I'm going to use a different brush to blend it out. Because if you use the same brush, it's just going to add more product. So let me grab a brush to blend it. Okay, to blend it, I'm just using this RMS 60B brush. I also have a code with RMS. It'll be linked down below. And I'm going to use this to just blend it out so it's not just like so starkly just like a strip on my face. Okay. I almost wonder, did I blend it out too much? I think I blended it out too much. So I'm going to apply a little more product because we're really trying to show the color difference between the shades. So let me add more. I do like that these have little mirrors. I should mention that. That is a nice touch. I applied a little more of Cheer, and I am just blending it out again with the RMS brush. Okay, so here we have the shade Cheer. Now I'm going to wipe off my brush, and then we are going to apply the shade Joy on this cheek. Ooh, okay, this one's looking quite pigmented. Wow, okay, yep. This one is very, very pigmented. I'm tapping it on, and then I'm just cleaning my brush off on a microfiber towel. And whoa, okay, so this one is really, really pigmented. Okay, very pigmented. My other blending brush just fell to the ground, so let me grab that. Let me do an inspection with my bigger mirror. Okay, yeah, so that one was really pigmented. I'm just blending and diffusing it. On this half of the face, we have the shade Joy. Okay, if I'm being honest, I feel like something I'm struggling with this formula is when I'm blending it out, it's kind of blending the pigment away. And what pigment away, and what I'm left with, I feel like, is just shimmer. I'm a little concerned. That's kind of weird to me. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but essentially when I blend it further with this brush, the pigment's being swept away, but the shimmer particles are still there. So it kind of looks like I'm just wearing a little bit of shimmer. You know what, we're gonna redo this, but I'm gonna leave this in because I wanna be, you know, providing an honest review. And so let's reapply those, but this time we're not gonna blend as much and we'll see how they look. So I'm going back in with Cheer. Actually, let me make sure I cleaned my brush. Okay, I'm going in with Cheer. Okay, pretty. So a gentle application. And then let's go back in with Joy on this side. And I'm gonna be very careful with the amount of product I pick up because that one was extremely pigmented. This time we're not really gonna blend because I want the pigment to still be there. But I don't know, like, do I want a blush that I feel like I can't blend? That's a philosophical question we'll come back to later. But let's now redo the cheek comparison. So this side we have Cheer. And this side of my face we have Joy. From a color perspective, these are definitely different. Joy is just a lot orangier than, what was this one? Than Cheer. Cheer is a true pink, whereas Joy is a true terracotta. So in my opinion, they are not similar. I want to now zoom you in. I'm gonna film this next part on my iPhone so we can really get in there and show you what the texture is looking like on my skin, because I know that was like hotly debated. Concern is like, is this gonna emphasize texture? So let's zoom you in right now. We're getting up really nice and close and personal here. I want to show you what the blush is looking like on the skin. Definitely emphasizing some texture. Let me take you over to the other side. This one is really doing a good job of showing you kind of what the texture looks like. It's definitely metallic, and it's not like one with the skin necessarily. I would say, like, looking at myself in the mirror in natural light, like when I'm looking in my other mirror, it's very evident that I'm wearing a glowy blush, which isn't something I personally necessarily want. I want it to look more natural from within. But we're going to continue with the rest of the cheek swatches, and then we're going to do a ton of comparisons where, like, I'm going to apply, actually I think I will apply like an RMS blush so I can get a feel for, am I just being overly sensitive about glowy blush formulas, or is this one like uniquely glowy to the point where it's slightly unflattering? We are back. I removed the blushes, added concealer, and now we are going to dive into the next two shades. Next two I'm going to do are Happy and Hope. My voice really cracked on that one. Let's start with Hope. And Hope is this really pretty kind of mauve-y nude. I cleaned my brush and we are just going in and we are going to do that tap application. Here is the shade Hope. We're gonna go in on this side with Happy. Ooh, that is so pretty. Here is the shade Happy. We're going to remove and then come back for the final two, and these are the deepest shades in the collection, so I'm very interested to see how they translate on my very, very pale skin. The final two shades that we are going to be swatching are the deeper shades. So we have Love here, which is that terracotta shade, and then Truth, which is, I would describe it as a berry. So I'm going to be extra gentle when applying these deeper shades. So I'm going to be really careful about the amount of pigment I pick up. I do really like that in this range, they launched with colors for every skin tone. I feel like sometimes when brands come out with a new formula, they might just do 3 shades, but in a blush line, I think 6 is the least you need. You need at least 6. So you can get some deeper skin tone ones as well. Okay, this is not too scary. This is actually pretty wearable in my opinion. I am building it up a lot more so we can see the color on camera. I need to blend this out though. Okay, the way that I applied that was pretty haphazard. I am going to use the RMS brush here to try to diffuse that out. Okay. Very nice. So on this side we have Love. And on this side, we are going in with Truth. Okay, that one is very pigmented, and the way I applied it looks like I have just a stripe on my face. So we're gonna go back in and diffuse this out. Here is the shade Truth. I have to say that as long as you really diffuse out the deeper shades, they are wearable on fair skin tone. Like, I think these shades actually look really, really pretty. Again, when I first applied them, they were a little scary, but then I went in with the RMS 60B. Any like bigger fluffy brush will do, and diffuse it out to make it more wearable. Now, let's talk about my first impressions of the formula. So I'd already mentioned that longevity is there because I wore it for 5 to 6 hours last night, no problem. Okay, I do feel like these are really emphasizing my texture. However, I tried a new skincare product that my skin didn't like, and so my skin is more textured than it normally is. So I do want to caveat it with that. But what I'm trying to mentally figure out is, am I just being harsh on a glowy blush, or is this glowy blush particularly texture emphasizing? So what I'm going to do to get to the bottom of this is I'm going to remove one side. I think I'm going to remove this side here that has a lot more of the texture on my face. I don't think the camera is necessarily going to pick it up because this is flattering lighting. And what I am going to do is I am going to apply an RMS Redimension blush on the side of the face. So then we can do a comparison and try to figure out, is it this formula, or is my skin just having a particular moment? Before I do that though, I am going to go back in with the iPhone. I am going to go back in the iPhone because the iPhone isn't as forgiving, and try to capture some of this texture that I'm talking about on camera so you can really see it. Let's do a formula comparison on the cheeks. I decided to go with one of the RMS blushes because that's one of my favorite glowy blushes, and I know it's a really popular one, so some of you may have it in your collection. So I wanted to compare Bermuda Rose from RMS Beauty to Happy from Rare Beauty. So these are pretty close in color, and I wanted to put them on the cheek so we can get a comparison of the actual formula more so than the shades. I also want to mention that I do have a code with RMS Beauty. I did purchase all the RMS blushes with my own money, but I did want to mention I do have a code. If you're interested, I'll have it up on the screen, but these are still, of course, my honest opinions. For consistency's sake, we will use that same brush that we have been using throughout this video. We're going to start with RMS, and I'm going to do RMS on this side of my face, which was a little bit more textured, so that I can figure out, like, is it the formula that was making my face look more textured, or do I just have very textured skin right now? So one immediate difference I noticed between the RMS Redimension blush and the Rare Beauty one is the RMS one is buildable. So whereas when I was applying the Rare Beauty ones, as soon as I applied it, I immediately had to like diffuse it out. With these, you can really build them up to your level of pigmentation that you want, which is always my preference, especially because I'm not the best at makeup application. I'm a makeup enthusiast, not a makeup artist. I find that that is my strong preference. Okay, so we have RMS Bermuda Rose applied. Sorry, there's a whole conversation going on outside my window. They're planning an outing. Okay, now we will do Rare Beauty. Also, if you guys have feedback on my lighting situation, please let me know. I have like a studio light, a light coming this way, but I do feel like when I'm watching these back, the lighting feels a little like dreary, and I don't know if it's because I have like a taupe wall kind of behind me and that's throwing off the color balance. But anyways, if you have opinions, please let me know. Be harsh if you want. I'm trying to make these videos as enjoyable as possible, and so if the lighting is off, then you're probably not enjoying the video as much as you could be. Okay, I will say for Happy, for some reason, like Happy, I don't have as much of an issue with the application as I did with some of those other shades. Like Happy was pretty buildable in my opinion. Okay. So shade comparison, Happy, Bermuda. I'm going to do an inspection with my mirror to tell you my thoughts on the formula and shade. Okay, the shade is very, very similar. The formula difference, I will say, is that the Rare Beauty ones are a lot glowier. The RMS ones, the reason why I love those is because they're glowy, but there's really no shimmer. Whereas with the Rare Beauty ones, I view them as more of like a blush topper because there's less of the like color pigment and more of the shimmer. So like when the light catches, I'm seeing some of the tiny, tiny shimmer particles, not glitter, but shimmer particles. Whereas with the RMS ones, I'm seeing more of the pigment than I am the shimmer. And that's kind of evident in the formula as well when I'm looking in the pan. I'll insert an arm swatch here comparing those two so you can see kind of the level of shimmer difference. I've had Bermuda Rose from RMS Beauty on this half of my face and then Happy by Rare Beauty on my face for like over an hour now. It's kind of marinating while I've been filming other swatches, and I want to share my thoughts. So if I'm being honest, I don't know if the Rare Beauty ones are like less flattering than the RMS ones, because I'm still seeing like my texture here with the RMS blushes on. What I will say the difference is the level of shimmer. Whereas the RMS ones really provide you with a lit from within glow, and I'm not seeing any shimmer on my face. In contrast, the Rare Beauty one, I'm still seeing those micro shimmers on my face. And for me, like, that's kind of a problem. It's kind of a problem. So overall, I know this is like kind of rambly, but my takeaway from the formula thus far is that it's really shimmery, but then the level of pigment in the actual like pigment itself in the blush is too low in my opinion. So like that's what was happening in that first clip when I was applying those lighter shades and then I was diffusing them out with my RMS brush. When I diffused them, what it did is it almost like took away whatever pigment was there and I was just left with shimmer on top. Now, I did not experience that for the two darker shades. So when I put on Love and Truth, I didn't find that when I blended them out and diffused them that the pigment went away. So I do feel like I was left with a nice balance of pigment and shimmer on my cheek to categorize it as a blush. Now, before I get into my final thoughts, I also want to include an arm swatch video I did, or before I get to the arm swatch video, I want to show you the different blush formulas that I swatched, not really for shade comparisons, but more so for formula comparisons. So I swatched the RMS Beauty blush, I swatched one of the MAC Dimension blushes, I think that's what it's called, one of the Essence like baked glowy blushes, and then the Rare Beauty one as well. So I'll insert a clip here of the ones I swatched. And then now I'm going to insert arm swatches. I'll have the blushes written out next to them. But you can tell in the direct sunlight, like the different level of shimmer between the different formulas. So the MAC one was probably the shimmeriest. However, the base of the MAC one was really strong. So to me, when I wear the MAC one, it still feels like a blush. In contrast, you'll see in the bottom swatch there of the Rare Beauty shade and Happy, it's really, really shimmery. And then the level of pigment in the pink is dialed down, which is why I was having those problems when blending those lighter shades out. Now, I will say Happy was more pigmented than some of the lighter shades. That's the one I am wearing now. And it is pretty. Like, it is pretty. I'm gonna keep playing with them. I'm really torn because I like really want to love these products because I love the Rare Beauty liquid blushes and highlighters, and I also don't want to be attacked by the Selena Gomez fans in the comments, but I would say my like overall takeaway is these are mismarketed a little bit. And I feel like this happened again with the lip oils where they were marketed as a glossy lip oil when they in fact were a glossy lip stain. Like they were not a lip oil whatsoever, and I feel like it was a little bit mismarketed. So I went in thinking it was one thing and it was something else. And I really love those lip products, but I had to like reframe my expectations. And I think we're having another bit of an issue with marketing for these products. Whereas I think these, like with the exception of the two darker shades, I think they are blush toppers. For example, the shade Joy. Like, yes, this one is more pigmented, but even so, once you diffuse and blend out the shade, you're really left with shimmer and not a lot of pigment. And so for me, I would want to wear those other shades under a blush. And so these to me are blush toppers as opposed to blushes. And if they had marketed them as such, I would have gone in with expectations that this is a blush topper, and I would have been really, really happy with the result. But because they're marketed as a blush, I'm struggling a little bit. I would say my first honest impression is these are okay. They're okay. I need to spend more time with them. Like I really do. But so many products, when I use them, they're an immediate home run. These are not. So I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying don't get them, but I can't really recommend them at this moment in time because I need to spend more time with them. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you tried these or what your favorite glowy blush is. Also want to mention that I will have my Sephora sale video live before the sale starts on the 5th, so check back for that this week. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe, follow me on Instagram, thumbs up this video, leave a comment down below, all of the things. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you in my next video.